Mr. Thronder, please take a seat. Miss Reinhardt will be with you in a minute, the secretary told him. He sat down, somewhat reassured by the lawyer's office. No expensive furniture, but not cheap-looking either. Before he had time to worry further, a 50-year-old, somewhat plump lady with obviously dyed red hair entered the waiting room. Mr. Thronder? Max stood up and nodded, and she continued, I'm Anna Reinhardt. Fred called and told me to take the best possible care of you. Let's go into my office and talk about your situation. Max followed her into a nice but not luxurious office, took coffee from the secretary and told his story. He found a cheating wife, wanted a divorce, and also wanted to protect his assets, especially the proceeds from the sale of his company and his sister's company. He skipped the part of the story that concerned the golden Mercedes, although he suspected that Anna might find it funny. Max, is it okay if I call you that? He nodded, and she continued. And I'm Anna. Good news. Well, relatively good news considering your situation. Fred told me that you and your sisters owned your company before you married your wife, so your shares are considered separate property. That is, your wife has no rights to the shares of your company or to the proceeds of the sale. But you need to keep the shares and sale proceeds separate from any joint account you and your wife may have. This is true? I think so. But what about our house, retirement accounts, and the like? Well, there's not such good news for you. Since your salary is much higher than hers, you will be paying some child support for several years. We can probably avoid paying anything into the retirement account by increasing the amount of alimony. I know it's not attractive, but the short-term pain avoids what's usually worse, having to share your retirement money decades in the future. And your kids are in college, so no child support. I assume you don't mind being on the hook for the rest of their college expenses? Yes, that's suitable. What about the house? You and your wife must decide what you want. You may decide to sell it and split the proceeds, or one of you can buy the other's portion based on the current appraised value. After what I saw last night, I definitely don't want this house. I don't think Camilla can afford to buy my half, so I guess that means selling. Okay, I can do the paperwork this way. The divorce petition is a pretty standard form, so I can have it ready for you tomorrow, early if you'd like, so we can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon. A proposed settlement could then follow next week. God, that's pretty fast. Mr. Thronder, Max, listen to me. If there's a chance for you and your wife that some counseling or just a little time could... No, actually, it's just a shock for me. I mean, less than 24 hours ago, I was happy. I couldn't wait to get home to my wife and tell her the good news about the sale of the company. And now I'm sitting here talking about filing for divorce, but we must move forward. I'll figure out how to deal with this. Okay, but if you change your mind, just call me and we can work things out. Max thanked her, paid the advance, and left the office. He walked back to the gold Mercedes, wondering a bit about what was going on with that asshole he'd seen last night. And that reminded him that he had told his secretary that he would call Camille. Camille answered the phone in her office at the law firm where she worked. Camilla, this is Max. You called and looked for me. Oh, Max, thanks for calling. I missed you. Where are you? I'm here in Charlotte, Camille. When did you get back? The snake deep in her belly raised its head. Last night, Camilla. I came back last night. And the snake bit. A little harsh. Camilla leaned back in her chair. She knew she had to carry on this conversation, but she could barely breathe, let alone speak. Camilla, I'm hanging up now. No, Max, no, she managed to squeeze out. Please, can we meet somewhere? I need to see you and just see you for a few minutes. Max hesitated. This woman was his love, the mother of his daughters, the most important person in his life for over 20 years. Okay, Camilla, the Center Cafe is at 6. The snake bit even harder. Camilla had to agree, but the Center Cafe was the place where she and Max had met a long time ago, both of them hanging out with friends. Since then, this cafe had become a special place for them, and now she was afraid why Max had suggested this. but she had to say yes. "Max, I'll see you there, and please listen. I'm sorry and I love you." Max hung up. Camilla sat and cried, and the snake bit more and more. Camilla came to the cafe early. Max was not there yet. She ordered a glass of wine and sat there thinking about what a terrible person she was. Her first real sexual experiences were with big, strong football players in college. She played around in high school, but it took those college football players holding her down, making her feel helpless. When Max arrived, she thought she had overcome this need to feel helpless. Max was everything she needed: strong in bed, loving, a great father to the girls, a good provider. That would have been enough if it weren't for the plane ride back to Charlotte from the West Coast. Max was visiting some pharmaceutical company trying to sell a new drug, and she accompanied him for the weekend before his meetings began. Flying home alone on an overnight flight, she sat next to a large man, the coach of what turned out to be a local NFL team. They chatted, drank too much, and she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. She woke up with his hand between her legs, under her skirt. Now, thinking about that night, she knew she should have screamed or at least pushed his hand away. But no, Camilla didn't do that. And the feeling of guilt? She didn't remember feeling guilty, only relief that Max didn't return until later that week when she and her body had recovered. The pussy had a feeling of guilt. This coach only worked in Charlotte for one season, and Camille might have become a faithful wife again if he had not introduced her to a forward from the practice squad before leaving. Not a star, not even a newbie, but just as strong and dominant in bed as the coach was. Camilla was actually grateful when she was assigned. After some time, the guilt finally surfaced. She wanted to remain faithful to Max and broke up with her lover. Camille thought she was done with her cheating by the time their girls left for college. She loved Max dearly and enjoyed the extra time they had together when the girls were away. But the snake slithered in when Max did something nice for it. He told her it was time for her to get a new car, a luxury car that she should choose, and unfortunately, she decided to go to the Mercedes dealership, where she met Franklin Thompson. He didn't sell her a Mercedes, but he pushed all the right buttons to get her into bed, and she knew it was wrong. Wrong. Also because Franklin wasn't that good in bed. She had gotten away with her previous affairs and thought the marriage was intact. But now she and Max loved each other more than ever, and she wanted to be faithful. This was the right thing, and not have sex with a big idiot. Letting Franklin spend the night in his marital bed would have been a terrible mistake, even if Max hadn't discovered them. But she had let him, and now she feared the terrible price she might have to pay. "Hello, Camilla." Camille looked up and saw Max standing there. He looked much older than he did before he flew to New York, and she knew it was her fault. The snake in her stomach continued to bite. "Hi, Max. Thank you for being here. I don't even know how to begin to say how sorry I am." "Can I ask a few questions?" he said, sitting down. "Oh, Max, please no. If we have any chance, questions and answers will simply kill that chance. Max, we should run away, just for a few days, to some island in the Caribbean, where we can be reunited, where we can hug each other, where—" "Camilla, please. You're delusional. If you can't answer my questions, I'll get up and leave now." The snake continued to bite, but Camille knew she had to endure the pain and let Max vent the way he wanted. Maybe, just maybe, he could come out the other side of his anger to some kind of reconciliation. "Okay, Max. Ask me anything." "Do you know what time I got home last night?" Strange question, she thought. No, not really. It had to be after—" She shut up. She knew what his next question would be, and it was, "And do you know what I saw when I got home? When I went upstairs to our bedroom? Or should I say, what used to be our bedroom?" "Yes, Max, I know what you must have seen, and I know it must have been one of the worst things you've ever seen in your entire life, and I know it's entirely my fault. That you saw this, and I am begging you to please listen to me. Max, I'm sorry. So sorry that I won't fight the divorce you want. If you want—" "Shut up, Camilla." Next question. How many men have there been since we got married? If you're lying, if I think you're lying, I get up and leave. Camilla's first thought was to lie. The second thought was that lying was too risky. And the third thought was that the marriage was probably over anyway. 3, Max. 3 men whom I now regret having ever met. I think I can see in your eyes that our marriage is over, and I understand it. You deserve someone better than me. I'm willing to do almost anything to give us another chance, but I understand if you don't want anything to do with me anymore. Call the lawyer, Camilla. Tomorrow you will be served with divorce papers. Max got up and left. Camille sat there, too stunned to even cry at first. While she was thinking about what Max had just said, the snake in her stomach bit hard, and she actually started crying. Max walked out of the cafe, remembering how he and Camille first met there, decades ago, and wondering if this meeting would be the last time they ever had any kind of intimate conversation. Intimacy, he thought bitterly, must be the worst kind of intimacy. Hearing your wife say that she had sex with other men, and to see her with that toad Franklin, in their bed, in their fucking bed, sleeping, her snoring. For God's sake, how am I ever going to get over this? Perhaps he could handle 3 faceless men in the 20-odd years they had been together. Just maybe with some counseling and a lot of humiliation on her part, maybe. But he would never get over that scene in their bed. Their marriage was over. And sitting in that damn gold Mercedes, he finally cried. At some point, Max realized that it was already getting dark. He blew his nose, wiped his face, and thought about what Molly Thompson had said that morning, which now seemed like a year ago. She told him not to send her pictures of her husband sleeping with Camilla. She felt that it would be much more difficult to forgive if she were confronted with visual evidence. Max decided to call her, share this thought with her, and check the situation with Mercedes. "Hello," Molly answered the call. "Molly, this is Max Tronder from this morning. I'm just calling to see how you're doing and what I should do with the car." "Max, thank you for calling. I seem to be holding on. You can keep the car for now. Franklin is in so much trouble that he won't need her for a while." "Trouble? I hope you didn't shoot him." "No, but he might prefer this option. He got arrested for trying to break into our house and apparently took a swing at one of the cops. You know, he's a big guy, and the cop hit him with a stun gun. Then something happened while he was in prison. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I think he may have been attacked by another prisoner somehow. I wouldn't talk to him, and he ended up having to call his brother to post bail. And that means his whole family knows what's going on." Wow. Molly, I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I feel sorry for you. What I really want to say is that you made the absolutely right decision this morning not to look at the pictures of him cheating. If you have any chance of reconciling, these photos would make it a lot harder. Yeah, he finally came home a couple of hours ago, crying and telling me how sorry he was and begging me to let him stay, at least for now. You know, we have 2 little kids, so I'm going to try to figure this out. But life won't be easy for him. His own brother, who is a lawyer, told me that I should push for a prenuptial agreement, and he said he would help with that. Besides, I'm going to be in control of our finances, at least for a while. Franklin will be on a fairly short leash, and I plan to tug his collar frequently. Keep it up, Molly. I wish you all the best, and when you need to return the car, just call me. They hung up, and Max sat there, somewhat jealous of Molly. Perhaps Franklin learned his lesson. Being arrested and charged with assault for trying to hit a police officer on top of what happened to him in prison may have scared him a lot. Max hoped so, for the sake of Molly and their children. Finally, he drove back to the motel where he was staying. He had one more job to do before he tried to sleep. Call his daughters, Jane and Joan. "Hi, Daddy." It seemed to him that Jane answered. They were twins, not identical, but they might as well have been identical. They sounded alike. They went to a very expensive college together. They studied the same thing, nursing. At least they didn't look exactly alike. Close and obviously sisters, but not so obvious twins. Max often admitted, but only to himself, that he was happy that they were not identical. They were very good at ganging up on him, and he thought it would be even worse if 2 identical young women were forcing him to buy a car, getting him to stay out late, asking for money to go to Florida for spring break, which, whatever the request of the day is, "Daddy, please." But he also admitted, again, only to himself, that he enjoyed spoiling them. "Janie?" "Yes, you guessed correctly. Of course, there was a 50-50 chance. What's the matter?" "Listen, tomorrow is Saturday, and I would like to invite you and your sister to have breakfast. Well, let's call it brunch, maybe around 11 or so. That bistro on 4th Street we used to go to." That suits me. Wait a second." He heard a noise, and then she came back. "And Joan is fine too. Can we—" He quickly interrupted her because 6 or 7 of their friends were present at their last brunch. "Let's do this, just the 3 of us, okay?" "Of course," Jane replied. "But tell me what—" And again he interrupted her, not wanting to start a conversation on the phone, which was quite difficult even in person. "Listen, I need to run. See you at 11. Love you, and tell your sister I love her too. Bye." And he hung up. He hoped she wouldn't call Camilla, but he couldn't tell her that. Then she would have called Camilla immediately. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning will come quickly enough. After Max left the cafe, leaving her with his warning or curse or whatever to hire a lawyer, Camille's tears were hard to stop. She knew she had screwed up everything. Her marriage, her family, her whole life. She knew that her daughters would find out, her parents would know, all her friends would know. She would probably lose Max and her home. And Max, poor Max, seeing her lying in their bed, naked, probably with that damn Franklin who had a boner. This scene must have nearly killed Max, and Camille's tears continued. Finally, the waitress came over and asked if she needed to go to the ladies' room. Camilla choked back her sobs and managed to say, "No, thank you." She paid the bill and left, heading to the house that would soon no longer be her home. When she got there, she found some gin, just the wrong amount. Not enough to make her pass out, but too much to help her figure out how to get Max back. After she drank it all, it helped her fall asleep, hoping for some miracle that would bring Max back to her. Max was sitting in the bistro at 11 o'clock the next morning when his daughters entered. He reviewed and approved the draft divorce petition early in the morning, then drove 2 hours from Charlotte, using that time to figure out how and what to say to Jane and Joan. But first, everything is as usual. Hugs and kisses. How is school? How is work? Food ordered and eaten, plates cleared, and then finally, real conversation. "Dad, we know something is wrong," Joan began. "You look a little sick. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where is Mom?" "Girls, yes, I have really bad news, but nothing physical. No one is going to die and—" "It's Mom," Jane interrupted. "She did something terrible. Oh my God. Did she run off with one of her firm's lawyers? A young, strong body that Joni or I should be chasing." Both girls burst out laughing, taken aback by the absurdity of the idea, until they saw that their father was not laughing. "Dad, no, not Mom, no." Joan couldn't finish her fear out loud. "Girls, listen to me carefully. Yes, Mom changed. She cheated on me, but that doesn't mean she cheated on you girls." "Yes, that's right, Daddy," Joan said through tears. "If her cheating is destroying our family, then yes, she cheated on us just as much as she cheated on you." Both girls cried, and then Max started crying too. The girls stood up and tried to hug their dad and hug each other at the same time. "Dad, let's get out of here," Jane said. "There's a park about 2 blocks from here, and we'll have more privacy there." People were staring a bit, so Max quickly paid the bill, and they walked into the park, a girl on each side of him, all of them holding each other. "Tell us, Dad," Jane said after they found a bench to share. "We deserve to hear how bad it is." "You know she's right," Joan intervened. "We are quite mature and can handle this." "On the way here, I was racking my brains over what to tell you," Max began. "I agree. You are both adults. And yes, you are right. Your mother did cheat on all of us. I'm afraid I found my mother at home in our bed with another man, and she later admitted that there had been other men before him. I think I'm still in a bit of shock, but I know that she and I won't be able to recover from this. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer, and Mom is getting a divorce petition today. More tears, and then finally silence, as they all thought about the news and what their future would be like. Girls, no matter how bad it is, you need to put yourself and your schoolwork first. Enough money to pay for your senior year here at Duke. And if either or both of you want to do graduate work, I suspect I can find some money for that too. But there is a quid pro quo here. They looked at him. What did he mean? I'm happy to pay for your education, but I expect you to work hard and get good grades. Yes, what Mom did makes it difficult to concentrate on school, but you told me that you are adults, and real adults, mature, disciplined people can handle such adversity. Right? They looked at each other, cried again, and hugged him. Yes, yes, Daddy, you are the best, and we absolutely, positively will not let you down. Joan encouraged him while Jane looked thoughtful. Dad, Joan is right. We won't let you down. But what about you? Will you be okay? What are you going to do? Well, you can think about a lot in a 2-hour drive. First, I want you both to know that what you said does not surprise me at all. I know you will continue to do well in school, and I will continue to be proud of you. As for me, what my mother did beat me up pretty bad. I could crawl into a hole and just, suffer, feel sorry for myself, try to find a way to make peace with your mom. But I realized that this doesn't suit me. I've spent my entire adult life caring for other people. When I started working for my grandparents' company, I took care of them. And then after they left, I took care of my sisters as they owned their shares in the company. And then I took care of my mom, and I took care of you girls. It sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm really not. The company will soon be sold, and this will relieve me of responsibility for my sisters. Camilla left. And you guys, I promise that I will be happy to take care of you, to help you start your adult life. So what? 2 home runs out of 3 in terms of the women in my life. Not bad at all. That leaves me. And guess what? I look at this whole story with betrayal and divorce, not as the worst thing in my life, but as a chance to start a new life. A whole new life dedicated to caring for one person. Me? Fine. Dad? Really? I mean, if you really mean what you say, that's great, Joan said. Jane was a little more skeptical. Dad, what does all this really mean? New life? What? Work for another pharmaceutical company? Are you buying a farm? What? Good question, and I really have a good answer. No details yet, but this new life will be physical. I'm going to run marathons, climb mountains, swim across the Atlantic, climb the Alps, go on safari. I have a million things I'm going to do. And guess what? While I'm doing these things, I might meet a nice woman doing the same thing. And who knows? Damn it, Dad, this is amazing. Both girls looked at him with their mouths open. This was their father, not some enterprising stallion. Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Charlotte? Asked Jane. Well, yes, partly, but besides, I didn't sleep much, and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead, I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine. Max left his girls with more hugs and kisses and tears as he headed back to Charlotte, still in the gold Mercedes. As soon as Max left, the girls called their mother on the phone. Hello? A creaky voice answered the phone in the Tronders' house. Joan put her phone on speaker. Mom, this is Joan and Jane. We had just had breakfast with Dad, and he told us some terrible news. What did he say? Well, divorce was a terrible word, and the reason was your betrayal. Dad gave us a little more detail, but that's basically it. This is true? Oh, girls, this is difficult. He and I have been married for a long time, and this mistake. Yes, I made a big mistake. Well, more than one, actually. But I'm sure we can get through it. I just need to give your father some time to... Mom, Joan interrupted. Listen, Dad said divorce. He didn't talk about fixing the error. Mom, he was talking about cheating. Well, yes, technically he's right, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. I told him I would do anything. Mom! It was Jane's turn to interrupt. I think you're delusional. He told us that he had already met with a divorce lawyer. He actually said there was no turning back for you two. Joan and I don't want to take sides, but you have to understand reality. Tormented breathing on the other end of the line. Joan and Jane looked at each other. Should they have gone to Charlotte? Finally, Camilla spoke, not much louder than a whisper. I know I screwed up and ruined my marriage. I think your father hates me, and he's right. I've done disgusting things. He told me to hire a lawyer, and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know it's terrible for you too. Mom, don't worry about us, Joan said. Everything will be fine with us, and I know that Dad is doing everything in his power. You need to take care of yourself. Hiring a lawyer sounds like a good idea. Jane and I can go to Charlotte if you need it. Thank you, girls. This is nice. I'll be okay. I just need some time to get used to what I did. They hung up. The girls still didn't know what to do. You know, Joan said, it's funny, although it's not funny, but we're more worried about Mom, who created all this mess, than about Dad. They talked some more, eventually deciding not to go home, but to let their parents deal with each other without their daughters interfering. Camilla sat in her home in Charlotte, a little hungover from the gin she'd drunk the night before and more than a little depressed after talking to her daughters. She knew she had to get up, get dressed, and leave the house. Do something, she thought. As her thoughts turned to perhaps buying some more gin, the doorbell rang. Camilla opened the door. A young woman stood on the threshold. She looked like she was chewing gum. Can I help you? Camilla asked. Yes, ma'am. Are you Camilla Tronder, Max Tronder's wife? Why, yes, it's me. Why are you asking? Ma'am, you have been served, the woman said, handing Camille a folder with documents and taking photographs. What? What? Camille asked as the woman walked back to her car. Camille returned to the house and sat down at the kitchen table to look at the mysterious folder. When she saw the title of the first document, she almost fainted. A petition for divorce. She remembered Max's last words to her, get a lawyer. As she sat there looking at the familiar kitchen she had enjoyed with Max, she knew the happy days wouldn't come back after what she had done. Camilla was right. She and Max did not return after her betrayal. 6 years later, sitting in the ballroom of an expensive hotel and watching Jane dance with her new husband, Camilla mentally plunged into the past. When the girls were teenagers, she thought life was terrible. Too many activities, too much teenage angst because too many boys were either too mean or, from Camille's point of view, too nice to the girls. Max was too busy with her assistant job, and lawyer is too boring. Life had been overwhelming then, but now she missed it terribly. She was still working at the same law firm, doing the same boring paperwork. She dreamed. Camilla, here is your wine. Camille looked at her beau, the perfectly sweet middle-aged, paunchy, balding lawyer who had escorted her to Janie's wedding and reception. The bride looks lovely, just like her mother. Thank you, Carl, you're sweet, and thanks for the wine. He was a sweet man, and she could imagine marrying him if he was interested, but he definitely wasn't Max. She couldn't help but look across the room at Max. Max had just returned from a mountaineering trip to Nepal, and Camilla thought he looked like one of those bronze Greek god statues. Tanned, incredibly fit, even more handsome than she remembered. Right now he was smiling and laughing with Joan and her boyfriend, holding hands with a woman as beautiful and as fit as Max. Joan told her that Max had met the woman on another mountaineering trip, somewhere in South America, and they had been traveling, sailing, and climbing together for several months. Camille felt sick just thinking about it. Camilla! Carl tried to attract her attention. Yes, Carl? Camilla, I think we should leave. You've fulfilled your duties as mother of the bride, and staying here drooling over your ex-husband isn't doing you any favors, and I dare say this is not very good for the relationship that we have with you. Carl, you're sweet, and you're absolutely right. Let me go say goodbye to my daughters and we'll be out of here. Camilla hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds all the best, and, as hard as it was for her, ignored Max and his too cute girlfriend. Max actually saw Camille as she left the hall and felt a slight pang of sadness for their old times together. While he was watching her, Joan asked him a question. Sorry, Joni, what were you saying? Daddy, remember that strange-looking gold Mercedes you were driving when you, Jane, and I had breakfast that morning when you came to visit us at Duke? What happened to that car? Ah, Joni, that's a whole story that I won't bore you with. Let me just say that I borrowed this weird gold Mercedes from a friend and ended up giving it back to her. I think she sold it. It was truly an unlucky car. And Max turned to his friend to talk about their next trip to the mountains. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.